Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started on review for the first group of invertebrates. So we went through 5 so far, right? Porifera, which means what?
Pores.
Having pores, good. Cnidarians, or Coelenterata, which means hollow gut. Yeah. Cnidaria mean stinging. If you think of the jellyfish and stuff. Okay. The third group was Platyhelminthes, flatworms. Oh, flatworms. Platte. Think Platte, like the Platte River. Yep. And then nematodes, which is the roundworms. Good. Can you give me an example of a roundworm from yesterday? Any of them. How about this one?
Hookworm.
There you go. Hookworm, yeah. You got pinworms, you've got filarial worms. And then the last group we went through was Rotifera, or rotifers, which means what? Rotifer. Why are they called that?
Because they have like the
Cilia.
Rotate.
Okay, that's right there. It means wheel. Or like rotifer, rotate.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, yep. So those are the 5 groups that we've gone through so far. For the most part, they're very simple. So anytime you look at, let's say, the circulatory and respiratory system, not a single one of them has it because they're so simple they can get oxygen by diffusion. So they don't need circulatory system or respiratory system. Nervous systems get a little more complex as we went through them. Sponges, none. Cnidarians have a nerve net, right? The flatworms are the first ones to show cephalization. So they actually have a cluster of cells that serves as a primitive brain, basically. So they have a true head end, cephalization, nervous tissues towards the head end. I know you'll be asked that on your test somewhere, okay? The roundworms and rotifers are kind of in the same boat. They have simple ganglia or clusters of cells that act like a brain. They can detect touch, chemicals, things like that to help them in their environment. Okay, another thing, digestion. The way you're going to be asked on your test is comparing the 5 groups. So basically I can put a chart on there that will ask you, does a sponge have a complete or incomplete digestive tract? Incomplete. Good. Does a Platyhelminthes, or Cnidarian, excuse me, complete or incomplete? Incomplete. They still only have a mouth, right? Okay. Platyhelminthes, flatworms.
Complete.
Not quite. Still incomplete. Yep. They still only have one true opening, so it doesn't go all the way through. They don't have a digestive tract. Now, the nematodes and the rotifers, they're complete. Yeah. So those are the 2. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to do on there is I'm not going to have those in the phyla in order. Okay, and I'm going to do that on purpose because I don't want you to memorize a chart. I want you to know the characteristics of each of those. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so for instance, I'm going to have sponges on there, or not sponges. I'm going to have porifera on there, which are all sponges, and I'm going to then ask you how many true tissue layers do they have, and you'll tell me 0. Very good. Complete or incomplete digestive tract? You already said incomplete. Circulatory system, yes or no? No, which is pretty easy because every single one of these is going to be no for that one. Let's see. You'll have to give me an example of each one. And if you're looking for examples, go to your notes to the invertebrates #1 notes. because after each group, I give a list of examples. Okay. So for sponges, I do things like Grantia sponge. There's several listed there. Loggerhead, that's one of the easiest ones to remember. Loggerhead sponge.
Demo sponge.
Demo sponge, yeah. That one might not be so easy to remember.
Looks like dementia.
Then I may jump to nematodes. I have no idea or remember how I have it, what order I have it in. But so now all of a sudden you're looking at nematodes, and we go through nematodes, and I say, how many tissue layers does a nematode have?
2. Wait, 3.
Yes, 3. Right. Which group has 2? There is one group that has 2. Now you might have to think back to the order we went through them. Nope.
No.
Yep, the cnidarians. Because remember, they have the epidermis and gastrodermis, which is different than our endoderm, mesoderm, ectoderm. Okay. And all 5 of those are going to be on your vocab portion, so you have to make sure you put them in the right place. There is a word bank for you, but you just need to remember that anything that has 3 tissue layers, it's going to have endoderm, mesoderm, ectoderm. They all end in derm, not dermis. Okay. The cnidarians are the ones that have 2. Okay, so continuing on, circulatory system for nematodes. Again, pretty easy. No, they don't have one. I'm trying to think then. Complete or incomplete digestive tract? Nematodes.
Not complete.
Complete, right, because it's the last group we went through, right? Okay, along with rotifers. And then I would say, okay, now give me an example. Give me an example of a nematode. Oh, first of all, you should tell me what it means. What does nematode mean? Roundworm. Yep. Yep. Okay. Pinworm. Good. Good example. Hookworm. Any of those that you list is right on the money. What people have a tendency to do on that portion is to give me the name of the phylum, like flatworm or roundworm, instead of giving me an actual example. So just make sure that you give me a true example of each of those. Okay. What I'm going to do now, I think, is I'm going to pause this. I'm going to give you a chance to take a practice quiz for the terms. It's only 10 questions. Okay. I have it open so you can take it as many times as you want to. I'm going to only have you take it once during class, and then we'll continue on and kind of go through what else will be on the test. You good with that? Okay. So pause this. Okay. So now I would like to talk about the ones that you missed, because they're probably ones that a lot of people would struggle with. So the first ones were mesoglia, right? What does meso mean? Like mesoderm. Middle, right. So the mesoglia is going to be in between something. It's in between the gastrodermis and the epidermis of the cnidarians. So I don't have a real great way of trying to remember what glia is, but it's kind of the jelly part of the jellyfish, where it's in between the epidermis and gastrodermis. Okay. The only thing I can have you think of is know that it's the middle, because it's meso, and it's not mesoderm. So it's not a middle tissue layer like in us. Okay. Mesoglia is the jelly layer. What was the other one?
You can make a mess with jelly.
You could make a mess with jelly. That's true. That's very true. Good. What was the other one that was switched with that one? Oh, coelom. Yeah, it looks like colum. Yep. Coelom, remember that we are coelomates. So the coelom is a true body cavity. There are no groups that we have here that are coelomates. Okay, because the closest we get is the nematodes, which are pseudo-coelomates, which means false body cavity. Okay, and just to run back through the coelom, so remember that our digestive tract is not directly connected to the wall of the body, and there's a gap. Like there's a whole cavity between like the chest and the stomach. There's a whole cavity there, completely blank space. Hey, thanks. You can actually keep. I think that might be one of yours, to be honest.
Oh, that we left over here that day we did the balloon.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. What is another one that maybe we need to run through? Cephalization. That's a really important one. Cephalization. Cephal means head. Yeah. They have a true head end. Babies are born in cephalic presentation. They're born head first. They're supposed to be, unless they're my daughter, in which case she's just a pain in the rear end sometimes. So cephalization means that they have nervous tissue towards a specific end, which makes it their head end. Like you think of the planarian. The planarian is like the first one that shows cephalization because they have the eye spots and other nervous tissue towards a head end. Okay, sponges won't have that. Cnidarians don't have that. Just starts at the platyhelminth. These are the flatworms. Okay, is there any others? What's that? Oh, sessile. Sessile. Okay, that's a way of life. All right, so sessile means that they don't really move. They settle to the bottom, and then that's where they stay their entire life. So most of the polyps would live a sessile life. All of the sponges live a sessile life. At some point, they may be able to move, but then they settle on the bottom, and that's where they stay most of their life. Does that make sense? Sessile versus free living is not the right word. Free living and parasitic are probably two pairs. Free living means they aren't parasites. They get their food and they hunt or whatever.
So would a starfish be an example of that, or does a starfish?
Starfish is more mobile. Yeah, they're constantly crawling and hunting, actually. Sea anemones, coral, sponges, they'd all be sessile. A lot of like mussels, even though they can move too, because they can, which we'll get to next section. Yeah, so sessile, they attach to a surface and they stay there. Okay, any others? No? That's good. Okay, so the actual true layout of the test. Your first part will be different terms. Okay? Your first section will be different terms. Now, it's not simply just a list of terms in your terms list. You'll also get things that you saw in your notes, like, budding would have been on there. Polyp, cephalization. Phyllodyna, by the way, phyllodyna is the example. The only example I could tell you for a rotifer, because that's what we have, phyllodyna. It looks like Phil, like the name Phil, O, and then Dyna, the name D-I-N-A. Okay. The second part of it is labeling. Section 2. Labeling special parts of a planarian, and a rotifer. So those are the two things we looked at yesterday. And I can tell you, let's go through. What are some special structures in a planarian? That's these guys right here. And you guys are going to cut these on Monday. What are some special structures that we talked about on those guys that you can notice?
The eyes.
Eye spots. Yes, eye spots. And remember, they don't see an image. Yeah, that would totally be something to label. Okay. What else?
Trachea.
Not trachea. You are on the right track, though. Pharynx. Pharynx. Yep. The tube that comes out. Yep. That would also be something to label. That's probably, honestly, about it. Right? What's that? Nope. You won't have to label. There won't be anything like that. But then if you go to the rotifer, we talked yesterday about 3 different things you really need to know to label. What would be important about the rotifer?
The rotating things.
What are the rotating things? The cilia. Yeah. You definitely should be able to label the cilia. Okay. What about the part that chomps its food?
No.
It does start with an M.
It's not matrix.
Nope, not matrix. It's the mastax. M-A-S-T-A-X. That's an important feature because it's only found in these guys. You'll definitely have to label that.
What was the other thing we had that we said?
The cilia, the little hairs. Okay, because those are the parts that rotate. And the mastax chomps its food. And then what else did we talk about where it can attach to the surface?
It's foot.
It's foot or toes. Either way you want to put that, I'm good with. Yep. Okay, section 3. Red marker's kind of weak. This is complete chart or characteristics of each phylum. Okay, so we kind of went through this a little bit. I'll tell you what the categories you need to know. And again, these are not going to be in correct order. So you need to know the characteristics of each one. Number of tissue layers. If they have a circulatory system or not. Which you guys know the answer to that. None of them do. There's 5 points. Congrats. 10%. Yay. Whether or not they have a complete digestive tract. And then I need an example of each. Not, in this case, I do not need the meaning of the phylum. I don't want flatworm or roundworm. I want a specific example, okay? All right. The 4th section, the last section, is multiple choice. And this is more about characteristics of each of these groups. So things that we would talk about to compare each of these categories, basically. So type of reproduction, sexual, conjugation, that kind of stuff, asexual. Maybe a few of them might be examples of a specific phylum. Okay, where I list an example and you tell me what category it belongs to. Okay, let's say if I said sea anemone, what phylum does it belong to? Sea anemones.
Cnidarian.
Very good. Cnidarians. Very good. Okay. I have several of those on there. Then another question deals with the type of symmetry. So right now, let's go through the 3 types of symmetry that we talked about. Asymmetrical, which means they have no symmetry, right? Like sponges. Good.
Radial.
Radial and bilateral. Yeah. So radial, you can go around a circle. So cnidarians would show radial symmetry. Whereas bilateral symmetry, they're your flatworms, your roundworms, your rotifers, all of that stuff where you have one plane where you can fold them in half. Okay, there's 2 equal sides, bilateral, like us. Okay? So what's the most complex group that we've discussed so far?
The
Rotifers, right. Pretty easy because we're going from simplest to most complex. Just remember that. Keep that in mind. We also should know the difference between free living and parasitic. Okay. Free living flatworms. Tell me an example of a free living flatworm. Not parasites. Nope, those would be nematodes. And they'd be parasitic. Although they're parasitic, but they don't cause disease. Pinworms don't. What would be a free living flatworm? Yep, planarians. Good. Yeah. What would be an example of a parasitic flatworm? Hookworm is nematode.
tapeworm.
Tapeworm, good. That'd be a good one. Tapeworms. Flukes was another one we went through. Good. So you just kind of have in mind some of those examples of be able to distinguish between free living and parasitic. Is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Ultimately, that's the entire test. Right there. Study your notes. Okay. Look through those. Look for any keywords there that are only associated with a specific group, like amoebocytes and collar cells. Well, those are only associated with sponges. You probably know that. What other ones would be associated? Nematocysts would be a good term because it's only associated with cnidarians, right? Okay. So those are things you look for. I do like this chart one because that's when you can actually compare groups and what's different about them. So, you guys got any questions? No? This class probably went faster than your last one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If you have questions, come find me. You'll take your test on Wednesday because we're going on Tuesday. Monday, you'll do the lab, the planarian lab. And then you can do some extra review if you want to. If there's enough people here, I'll set it up so we can do a live thing, a game. Okay, and that's all I got.